welcome to Rig Clinic on Advanced Carp TV. Today I'm going to show you a variation of the drop-off inline lead that was developed by successful southern carp angler Steve Fantausi. Basically what it is, the original drop-off inline lead which we've got here, if I just show you this one, you can see the lead core comes up from the swivel over the top of the lead and is trapped in place by the tail rubber there. This is a perfectly fine rig. It's good for casting. The rig I'm going to show you is perhaps not as good for casting as this one, but this one has its limitations. I'm going to explain those now. Basically, this lead is designed to drop off when the fish hits weed or snags. Obviously sort of emphasising the safety of the rig really at this point. It's a perfectly safe rig, but once the lead has dropped off, I'll just show you how that works. When the fish hits some kind of obstruction, the swivel pops out the front of the lead, like that, and the lead is free to drop clear out of the tail rubber. So basically what you're left with, you're playing the fish attached to the swivel there and a fixed length of lead core. That lead core can't be ejected, the fish can't pull the hook link off that, so if you then break off, the fish is left trailing the lead core, which isn't ideal really. The rig that Steve devised gets around this rather nicely really. I'm going to show you how to construct it. The first thing we're going to do, put that one to one side, is take our piece of lead core. You'll notice here that I've looped a swivel onto the end. It's just a normal size 8 swivel for this purposes. Next thing we're going to do is just to get the lead ready for mounting on the rig. Let's move that one away. This is a fairly standard inline lead. You see it's got a hard plastic insert. We need to work with that first, so what we're going to do is push that clear of the lead, like so, and we're going to trim it down because we don't need all of this plastic lug. So I'd say about 1 inch is about right, so sort of there, and trim that off. We can get rid of the rest of that, we're not going to be needing that bit. So as you can see, that still fits nicely into the back of the lead there. We're going to need to pop that back in for the construction of the rig later. Using a pair of scissors, we'd now bore out the front of the lead a little bit. So just twisting the scissors inside. I'm not going to do that here because it's going to make a right mess, so I've already done that for you. As in this case, you can see there, hopefully, that this one's a little bit wider, the bore. I've sort of hollowed that out a little bit, and little tiny bits of lead will fall out, but that's what we want. So that's the finished lead. What we need to do now is to pop this little black bead. I don't know if you can see that there, hopefully. Little black Thinking Anglers oval bead. It's quite important, this bead. That's got to go onto the lead core. So what I'm going to do is pop that onto a gated needle, like that. Pop the lead core in, the leader. This is just like any leader that you'd use. And slide the bead onto the lead core, like that. Pull that all the way on, slide it right down to the bottom, and then push it over the first eye of the swivel there. So you're left with the bead just sheathing the first eye of the swivel. Right, next we're going to retain the tail rubber. Don't throw that away, but we've now got to pop on the hook link swivel. So if you can imagine, much as we've done with the previous rig, the hook link will be coming off that swivel. We're going to use the larger eye to slip over the lead core. So on that goes. Pull that right down till it touches the oval bead. Next thing, tail rubber goes on like this. Thread that onto your lead core. That's the setup we're now left with. Just show that on my hand. So you've got the oval bead ring swivel that your hook link's going to be attached to, and then the tail rubber. Now we take our doctored lead, and you're going to see exactly why I've bored out the hole in the front of the lead there, because this swivel has got to go inside the front of the lead like that, and the bead should fit quite nicely in there. I want to come on to a bit later exactly how tight the fitting should be, but as you can see, just push that into the front of the lead. We then take the lead core up and over the top of the lead like that, trapping the swivel, and then push the tail rubber on like that. Okay, so that's what you're left with, and that's pretty much the finished setup. You can see it's pretty neat. Obviously hook link coming off the front here. So what happens when the fish takes your rig, depending on how firm the fitting with the bead is, it will pop out at greater or less pressure. So you need to play around with that and decide what you want. If you want it to pop off straight away, then the lead's out of the equation. The fish can't use that to shake the hook out. You can also set it a bit more firmly if you want the lead to hang around, so it'll only pop out if the fish hits weed or snags. But basically what happens is the bead pops out the front like that. The fish moves off, and you're left with the lead hanging, and obviously that's not going to hang around there because we've moistened the lead clip, the tail rubber, sorry, and that simply pops off, drops away, and you're left playing the fish on the lead core, much as you were with this rig here. But if we see, the main difference is once this rig's ejected the lead, like we showed you earlier, the lead core's fixed. It can't dispense the lead core, can't get rid of it. Whereas this one, the hook link can ride up the lead core like this and pop off the end, leaving it just trailing the hook link rather than the whole setup. It's a really safe arrangement, especially where bait boats are being used, because something that Steve identified about the design of the rig, he had in mind waters where bait boats were used a lot and people were taking them a long way out over weed and snags and what have you, and he was worried that lead core might be a problem in those situations. So he's designed the rig so that the fish can get rid of the lead core if you're cut off playing the fish in. It's a really, really clever rig, and it's something that you can adapt for margin fishing, for placing the bait in, or bait boating. Basically, you can't cast this rig at present. I know Steve's working on a castable version, but at the minute you've got to either put it in a PVA bag or lower it into the margin yourself. I think it's a fantastic, clever arrangement that's hopefully going to make bait boating a lot safer, bait boating with lead core and inline lead setups. Why not give it a go this spring?